I already showed you my ID. You fit the description of a shoplifter. Turn around, sir.
I paid for my groceries.
You're making a mistake, officer.
I said turn around.
You don't make this harder than it needs to be.
I'm a Navy SEAL.
You don't want to do this. I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. You're being detained.
Whole Foods, Upper West Side, 6:15 p.m. on a Thursday. 4 cameras recording. The officer didn't know that yet. 6 years in prison, an $11.5 million lawsuit, a 12-year career destroyed in 11 minutes. This video will show you every second of how it happened. Before we go further, where are you watching from? Drop your city below. And if this is your first time here, hit subscribe. Stories like this don't tell themselves. Darius Coleman was 37 years old that Thursday evening, standing in the organic produce aisle. His basket held carrots, mixed greens, almond milk, simple groceries for a man who lived alone and kept things clean. The receipt was in his hand, printed at 6:14 p.m., paid in full, card on file, 4-year member of the store, 0 incidents in his purchase history. He was doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing: shopping, going home, making dinner. That's when Officer Brad Kowalski walked into the aisle. Kowalski was 41, 12 years with NYPD, still patrol, never promoted. That detail matters. He saw Darius, stop walking. His hand moved to his radio, not calling anything in, just resting there. A habit. His brain had already made the decision. Black man, athletic build, expensive neighborhood. The math didn't add up in Kowalski's head, so he approached. Darius saw him coming, stayed calm. Navy SEAL training doesn't turn off just because you're buying vegetables. Kowalski asked for ID. Darius handed over his driver's license. Clean record. Address matched the zip code. Everything legitimate. Kowalski held it, looked at it for 3 seconds, didn't scan it, didn't radio dispatch to verify, just stared at the photo, compared it to Darius's face. Then he asked a question that wasn't in any procedure manual. What are you doing here? Not thank you, not have a good evening. Just that question, as if being in a public grocery store required justification. Darius kept his voice even, said he was shopping, showed the receipt still in his other hand. Kowalski barely glanced at it. Dude. That's when Darius reached for his wallet again, pulled out a second card. This one was different. Blue. Government issued. Electronic chip embedded in the plastic. CAC card. Common access card. The kind issued to military personnel with security clearance. This particular card had markings that said top secret/SCI. Sensitive compartmented information. The kind of clearance that takes years to obtain and requires background checks that go back to childhood. Darius held it out. Kowalski took it, glanced at it for maybe 2 seconds, handed it back. He didn't ask what it was, didn't read the clearance level, didn't recognize what he was looking at, just pushed it back toward Darius like it was a grocery store loyalty card. He had just ignored the single most important piece of evidence in Darius's hand. The one that would have ended this encounter immediately if Kowalski had bothered to pay attention. But he didn't. And that mistake was now locked into 4 camera angles recording in high definition. 8 feet away, Dr. Sarah Goldstein stopped pushing her cart. She was 52, cardiac surgeon at Mount Sinai. 23 years cutting open chests and repairing hearts. She knew how to stay calm under pressure, and she knew when something was wrong. She watched, saw the receipt in Darius's hand, saw Kowalski's body language, shoulders forward, jaw tight, hand hovering near his belt. This wasn't a routine check. This was something else. She stayed where she was, didn't say anything yet, just watched. A witness with a medical degree and no reason to lie. Kowalski's voice changed, rose in volume, sharper now. Turn around, sir. An order, not a request. Darius didn't move, kept his voice level. I paid for my groceries. No anger, no fear, just a statement of fact, his training kicking in. Navy SEALs get trained for hostile interrogations, how to stay calm when someone's trying to provoke you, how to control your breathing, your tone, your face. Kowalski saw the calm and mistook it for defiance. I said turn around. Still, Darius didn't raise his voice. You're making a mistake, officer. That word. Mistake. It landed like a challenge. 3 aisles over, Michael Torres heard the raised voices. He was 61, retired, used to be a prosecutor in Manhattan for 28 years, handled everything from petty theft to organized crime. He knew what an unlawful detention sounded like. He walked closer, stopped at the end of the aisle where he could see everything. Then he did what 28 years of courtroom experience had taught him to do. He pulled out his iPhone, opened the camera, hit record. The timestamp read 6:17:23 p.m. That timestamp would appear in 47 pages of court documents, on evidence logs, on witness statements, on the federal prosecutor's timeline of events. But Torres didn't know that yet. He just knew he needed to document what he was seeing. Kowalski stepped closer, invaded Darius's personal space, the kind of move designed to intimidate. You don't make this harder than it needs to be. Darius held his ground, didn't step back, didn't step forward, just stood there with the receipt still in his hand and said 5 words that should have ended everything. I'm a Navy SEAL. The 4 ceiling cameras captured it perfectly. The audio was crystal clear. No background noise. Just those 5 words. Kowalski's response came immediately. He didn't pause. Didn't ask for clarification. Didn't ask to see military ID. He smirked, actually smirked, and said, I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. You're being detained. That sentence, 14 words, captured on 4 angles of security footage, recorded on Michael Torres's iPhone, heard clearly by Dr. Goldstein 8 feet away. Those 14 words would be played in federal court 47 times, once during opening statements, once for each witness who heard it, once during closing arguments, over and over until the jury could recite it from memory. But standing in that aisle at 6:17 p.m., Kowalski had no idea what he'd just done. No idea that his sarcasm was being documented from multiple angles. No idea that dismissing a Navy SEAL as if his service meant nothing would become the single most damaging quote in the entire case. He thought he was in control, thought his badge gave him the right to mock whoever he wanted. He was wrong. The noise was getting louder now, voices echoing off the refrigerated shelves. Anthony Chen heard it from the front of the store. He was the manager, 48 years old, 11 years running this location. He knew every regular customer, including Darius, who came in twice a week and never caused problems. Chen walked fast toward the produce section. Got there just as Kowalski was telling Darius to turn around for the 3rd time. Chen saw the receipt, still in Darius's hand. Saw Kowalski, saw the aggressive stance. He spoke directly to the officer, clear, professional. Sir, he paid. I have the receipt on camera. Not a suggestion, a statement of fact, from the person who had access to every transaction record in the building. Kowalski turned, looked at Chen like he'd just been interrupted during something important. The manager didn't back down. He's a customer. He checked out at 6:14. I can pull the footage right now. 2 authorities, one with a badge, one with proof. The cameras were still recording. The witnesses were still watching. And Kowalski was about to make a choice that would determine whether he walked away from this or lost everything. Kowalski looked at Anthony Chen, looked at him the way you look at someone who doesn't understand their place. This is police business. Step back. Not a request, a command. The badge talking. Chen didn't move. 11 years managing this store had taught him when to stand his ground. This is my store. I'm telling you he's a customer. The tone was respectful but firm. Manager to officer, authority to authority. Chen wasn't backing down. Kowalski's jaw tightened. He'd given an order. A civilian had refused. In his mind, that couldn't stand. He turned back to Darius, saw the CAC card still visible in his hand. That blue card with the chip, the one he'd looked at and dismissed 2 minutes ago. Something in Kowalski's brain made a decision. Later, psychologists would call it doubling down. And when someone's committed to a course of action and evidence against it only makes them push harder. He reached out, fast, grabbed the CAC card from Darius's hand, and tore it in half. The sound was distinct. K-k-k-r, plastic and embedded chip ripping apart. The noise echoed in the quiet aisle. 4 ceiling cameras recorded it. 3 phones captured it: Michael Torres' iPhone, Dr. Goldstein's Samsung, and one more. Emma Rodriguez, 22 years old, Columbia Law School, second year. She'd been shopping for dinner when she heard the commotion. Walked over, saw what was happening. She pulled out her iPhone 15 Pro, switched to 4K HDR video, zoomed in. Her footage captured Kowalski's hands in perfect detail. The grip, the tearing motion, the two halves of the card separating, the pieces falling to the floor. That file would become Exhibit A in the federal case. The prosecution would play it in slow motion, freeze it on the moment the card broke, use it to demonstrate willful destruction of government property. But Emma didn't know that yet. She just kept recording. What Kowalski had just done wasn't just rude. It wasn't just unprofessional. It was a violation of 18 U.S. Code Section 499, destruction of federal identification documents, a felony separate from anything else that would happen in the next few minutes. This one act alone carried a maximum penalty of 5 years in federal prison. Kowalski didn't know he just committed a federal crime on camera, didn't understand that CAC cards and SMRs are federal property, and destroying one is prosecuted by the Department of Justice, not local DA's offices. Darius knew. He'd carried that card for 14 years, knew exactly what it meant, knew what destroying it meant under federal law. He didn't say anything, didn't explain, just watched the pieces hit the floor, watched Kowalski make the biggest mistake of his life, and stayed silent. Kowalski reached for his belt, unclipped his handcuffs. The metal caught the fluorescent light. Turn around. This time it wasn't a request or even an order. It was a foregone conclusion in his mind. This was happening now, no more talking. Darius looked at him for one more second, then slowly turned, placed his hands behind his back, didn't resist, didn't pull away. Complete compliance. The cuffs went on. First the right wrist, click, then the left, click. The timestamp on the security footage read 6:19:47 p.m. 11 minutes had passed since Kowalski first walked into that aisle. 11 minutes since he saw Darius and decided based on nothing but skin color and location that something was wrong. 11 minutes left in a 12-year career. He didn't know that yet either. Dr. Goldstein had been watching in silence. Recording on her phone, she'd seen the card torn, seen the handcuffs go on, seen a paying customer treated like a criminal. She spoke up, loud enough to be heard clearly. "Officer, I'm a witness. This man paid for his groceries. I saw the receipt." Her voice was steady, doctor calm, the kind of voice that delivers bad news to families and stays composed. Kowalski turned toward her. His face was flushed now, too many people questioning him, too many voices telling him he was wrong. "Ma'am, if you interfere with this arrest, you'll be detained too." A threat, clear and direct, documented on multiple cameras, spoken to a 52-year-old cardiac surgeon who had done nothing but tell the truth. Dr. Goldstein didn't step back, didn't lower her phone, didn't stop recording. "I'm not interfering, I'm stating what I witnessed." Her tone didn't change, still calm, still factual, still recording. Michael Torres kept his phone steady, kept the frame on Darius in handcuffs, on Kowalski, on the pieces of the CAC cards still on the floor. 28 years as a prosecutor had taught him what evidence looked like. This was evidence, all of it. The destroyed ID, the unlawful detention, the threat to a witness. He made a mental note of everyone present. Dr. Goldstein, Emma Rodriguez, Anthony Chen, 3 credible witnesses, professional backgrounds, no criminal records, no reason to lie. A defense attorney's nightmare, a prosecutor's dream. Anthony Chen was on his phone now, not recording, calling, his district manager first, then corporate security, giving them a quick summary. An officer had detained a regular customer, destroyed his federal ID, threatened another customer. He was already thinking ahead. The footage would need to be preserved, copied, stored off-site. This was going to become a legal matter. The store needed to protect itself and protect the evidence. Darius stood with his hands cuffed behind his back, didn't struggle, didn't shout, didn't make any move that could be interpreted as aggressive or threatening. He'd been trained for this, not for grocery store arrests, but for hostile situations. How to stay calm, how to survive, how to wait. He was waiting now, letting Kowalski keep digging, letting the cameras keep recording, letting the witnesses keep watching. In war zones, he'd learned patience, learned that sometimes the best move is no move at all. So he stood there, silent, compliant, and let the evidence pile up. Two patrol cars pulled up outside. Backup. Kowalski had called them in before making the arrest. Standard procedure when detaining someone. Two officers walked into the store. One of them was Sergeant Maria Santos, 43 years old, 19 years with NYPD. She'd seen a lot in those 19 years. Knew the difference between a legitimate arrest and something that didn't smell right. She walked into the produce aisle, saw Darius in handcuffs, saw Kowalski standing there with his chest out like he'd just caught a major criminal, saw the witnesses with their phones out. Then she looked down, saw the two pieces of blue plastic on the floor. She bent down, picked them up, turned them over in her hands. The words were still legible, even torn in half. Common Access Card, Department of Defense, and in smaller text, Top Secret/SICI. Her face changed. The color drained slightly. She looked at Kowalski, looked at Darius, looked back at the torn card. Who destroyed this? Kowalski's voice was defensive. He was resisting. Santos cut him off. Who destroyed this? The store was quiet. Multiple people said he did at the same time, pointing at Kowalski. Santos pulled out her radio, pressed the button, spoke directly to dispatch. This is Sergeant Santos, badge 4721. We have a situation at the Whole Foods on Columbus. Federal ID destroyed. Need a supervisor on scene immediately. Not a request, a requirement. The kind of call that gets flagged, that gets attention, that starts a chain of events that doesn't stop. Kowalski was starting to understand, not fully, not yet, but starting to. He tried to explain. Started talking about suspicious behavior, about the shoplifting report, about Darius not cooperating. Santos held up her hand. Save it. The supervisor will be here in 5 minutes. You can explain it then. 8 minutes had passed since Kowalski tore the CA's card. 8 minutes too late to take it back, too late to undo it, too late to say it was a mistake. The dominoes were already falling. Anthony Chen didn't wait. He walked straight to his office in the back of the store, logged into the security system, found the footage from all 4 cameras covering that aisle. He checked the timestamps, 6:08 p.m. when Kowalski first entered, 6:19:47 p.m. when the handcuffs went on, 11 minutes total, all recorded. He plugged in a USB drive, started the download. 4 angles, high definition, clear audio. The files took 3 minutes to copy. Chen burned them onto the drive, made a second copy, then a third, stored one in the office safe, kept one in his pocket. He walked back to the produce aisle, found Sergeant Santos, held out the USB drive. I want this preserved as evidence. 4 camera angles, full audio, covers the entire incident. Santos took it, nodded. I'll log it into evidence chain tonight. She did. The timestamp on the evidence log read 8:00 p.m. that same day, less than 2 hours after the incident. No time for anything to disappear. No time for stories to change. Chen had just ensured that whatever Kowalski claimed happened, the video would tell the truth. By the next morning, Internal Affairs had Kowalski's file open on a desk. The file was thicker than it should have been for a 12-year officer who had never been promoted. 7 complaints, spanning 8 years, 6 of them from Black residents, 1 from a Latino man. 5 of the complaints had been dismissed, insufficient evidence, conflicting accounts, no witnesses willing to testify. 2 had resulted in written reprimands, nothing more. A note in the file, a conversation with a supervisor, back on patrol the next week. 1 had turned into a civil lawsuit, settled by the city for $45,000. No admission of wrongdoing. A standard clause that prevented the victim from talking about it publicly. And there was a memo, dated August 2020, from a lieutenant who'd reviewed the pattern. Officer Kowalski exhibits a pattern of complaints primarily from minority residents, recommend diversity training, and supervisor observation on patrol. When the recommendation had been filed, not implemented, the pattern had been noticed, not acted on, and now 4 years later, that pattern was about to become evidence in a federal case. So the CAC card made this federal, not local, not city, federal. When government property gets destroyed, the FBI gets called, especially when that property belongs to someone with top secret clearance, especially when it's done by a law enforcement officer. 2 days after the incident, FBI Special Agent Robert Williams was assigned to the case. He interviewed Darius on Saturday morning at a federal building, not a police station, different jurisdiction, different rules. Williams asked about the clearance, what it was for, why Darius had it. Darius explained, Naval Special Warfare Instructor. He trained SEAL candidates, taught advanced combat tactics, had access to classified operational information. Williams verified everything, made calls, checked records, confirmed that Darius Coleman was exactly who he said he was, that the CAC card was legitimate, that destroying it was a federal crime. The case was no longer just about a bad arrest. It was about assaulting a federal instructor, destroying federal property, interfering with someone who trained the military's most elite operators. The stakes had just gone from city-level misconduct to federal prosecution. 72 hours after the incident, Kowalski was called into the precinct, not for his regular shift, for a meeting with internal affairs, with his union rep, with a deputy chief he'd never met. They didn't waste time. His badge was on the table, his service weapon next to it. You're on unpaid administrative leave pending investigation. Not paid, not temporary, unpaid. The kind of suspension that signals this isn't going away quietly. Kowalski tried to argue, started talking about how he was just doing his job, how Darius had been acting suspicious, how he'd felt threatened. The deputy chief slid a tablet across the table. Press play. The video from Emma Rodriguez's iPhone. 4K quality. Kowalski tearing the CAC card. Shimon. The sound clear, the action unmistakable. We've seen the footage from multiple angles. Save your explanation for your attorney. The meeting lasted 6 minutes. Kowalski walked out without his badge, without his gun, without any idea how bad this was about to get. That afternoon, NYPD issued a statement. Brief, carefully worded. An officer has been placed on unpaid administrative leave following an incident at a retail location. The matter is under investigation. We have no further comment at this time. No names, no details, just enough to acknowledge something had happened. Not enough to admit fault. But the internet had names, had details, had video. The footage from Emma Rodriguez had already been shared 40,000 times. Michael Torres had sent his to 3 civil rights organizations. Dr. Goldstein had given her statement to 2 reporters. The NYPD's no comment couldn't stop what was already in motion. 12 years on the force, 7 complaints ignored, 1 man's federal ID destroyed. Was the punishment fitting? Drop your thoughts below. The district attorney filed charges 3 weeks later. Assault under color of authority, civil rights violations, official misconduct, maximum 7 years. Federal prosecutors filed separately. 18 U.S. Code Section 499. Destruction of government, i.e. maximum 5 years. 2 jurisdictions, 11 years total if sentences ran consecutively. Kowalski was arraigned on a Tuesday. Bail set at $50,000. He posted it, went home to wait. The waiting took 9 months. Darius hired Jennifer Chen, civil rights attorney, 22 years handling police misconduct. She filed against Kowalski in the city. False arrest, destruction of federal property, constitutional violations. Demand $15 million. The city fought for 6 months. Then they saw the video. All 4 angles. Synchronized. They settled. $7.5 million. The agreement included one line. This settlement does not constitute an admission of wrongdoing. No admission. But the check said everything. The trial began 9 months after the incident. The prosecution played the video, 4 camera angles, Split screen, every angle showing Kowalski tearing the CEA's card. The audio was clear. I don't care if you're a damn astronaut. The prosecutor played it 47 times across the entire trial. Opening, witness examination. Closing, 6 witnesses testified. Dr. Goldstein, Michael Torres, Emma Rodriguez, Anthony Chen, Sergeant Santos, Darius. The defense had no contradicting evidence, no witnesses, no explanation, just a theory about an honest mistake. The video made that impossible to believe. The jury deliberated 4 hours, came back guilty on all counts. Judge Diane Carter was 61, black woman, Army veteran, 23 years on the bench. Her sentencing was brief. You betrayed the oath. You weaponized your badge against a man buying groceries. You destroyed federal property. You threatened witnesses. You showed no remorse. 6 years in state prison. Maximum penalty, no leniency. The federal case would add more time later. But 6 years ended the career permanently. Darius used the settlement to establish the Coleman Legal Defense Fund, free legal help for victims of police misconduct who couldn't afford to fight. 2 years, 34 cases handled, 12 victories. He still trained 180 SEAL candidates every year, but he added something new to the curriculum, a class on civil rights, on abuse of authority, on responsibility over immunity. His students listened. They knew his story, knew their instructor wasn't teaching theory. Kowalski served 4.5 years, released early for good behavior. Federal charges dropped in a plea deal. He never apologized publicly, never admitted fault. He left New York 3 weeks after release, moved to a different state. Google doesn't forget. Type his name, first 100 results news articles, the video, the verdict, the sentence. His name became a case study, taught in 47 police academies nationwide, an example of what not to do, how bias destroys careers, how cameras capture truth. The settlement mandated reforms for NYPD, not suggestions, requirements, civilian oversight board with binding authority, mandatory body cameras for all officers, early warning system flagging officers with 3 or more complaints, public release of footage within 30 days of any use of force incident. The changes took effect within a year. Other cities adopted similar policies. The case became a template. Proof that accountability works when evidence is undeniable. One man stood his ground. 4 cameras told the truth. A system was forced to change. If stories like this matter to you, hit that subscribe button. Justice doesn't happen in the dark. It happens when people refuse to look away.